This is a tutorial to help you fill in the maps from this week. So we're going to go through this as quickly as we can, and hopefully it'll be quick and easy. So we will start by labeling the United States, and as always, if I go too fast, just pause the video. We're going to go ahead and color that in, and then label the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific. And you can see on this sheet that it says to label the United States and then color the 48 contiguous states green. We've already done that. Label the Atlantic and Pacific. And then number 3 says the first territory added to the United States as a possession was, and we know that it was Alaska in 1867. We discussed that in class. Label and date this area on your map. Before we turn and do that, though, number 4 says, in August 1867, the United States acquired Midway Island, meant to develop a coaling station there for ships on their way from the U.S. to Japan. Circle and date Midway on your map. And then number 5, in 1898, the United States added the Hawaiian Islands and Wake Island. Circle and date these on your map. And number 6 says, in 1898, the United States and Spain fought the Spanish-American War. As a result, the United States added the following territories: the Philippines, Guam, Puerto Rico, and Cuba. Circle and date each of these on the map. So we'll go ahead and do that. Alaska, 1867. Midway Island, 1867. Wake Island, 1898. The Hawaiian Islands, 1898. Puerto Rico, 1898. Cuba, 1898. Guam, 1898. And the Philippines, 1898. Back to number 6, it says which 2 of these is still controlled by the United States? And they are Guam and Puerto Rico. Number 7 says, in 1904, the United States took charge of the canal zone in Panama. Draw in the Panama Canal and label it on the map. But before we do that, let's go ahead and read number 8. It says, in 1917, the United States bought the Virgin Islands from Denmark. Circle and date these on your map. So we'll draw in the Panama Canal and label it 1904. And then we'll circle the Virgin Islands and label that 1907. All right, finally, number 9 says, throughout the years 1867 to 1940, the United States gained many islands in the Pacific. Locate using any source available to you and label any 2 of the following. That's worded a little bit awkward, but we're supposed to look up 2 of them and then label them. And so I'm going to walk you through how to do that, and we're going to do Johnson Island together, and then I'm going to let you choose one more of the others to do on your own and label it on your map for next week. So I'm going to type in my search engine location Johnson Island and hit search. It takes us to this page. I scroll down and I see a nice map of Johnson Island. We're going to click on that. And we see that it is just southwest of the Hawaiian Islands. So there's the island just southwest of the Hawaiian Islands, and we will name it Johnson Island. All right, now we're going to move to the Great War, a map study. And number 1 asks us to locate and color several countries. Rather than read them here, we're going to move down the page and just go ahead and label them and color them together. So we'll label Germany and Austria-Hungary, Bulgaria, Italy, Turkey, and these countries as you see at the top of the map, are the Triple Alliance power, or the Central Powers. Next, we'll fill in and label Britain and France, Russia and Romania, Serbia, Montenegro, Albania and Greece, Portugal, and North Africa. And these blue countries were called the Triple Entente, or the Allied Powers. Finally, it asks us to label and color the countries that remained neutral during World War I. And we're going to start with Spain. And we'll move to Norway, Sweden, Denmark, the Netherlands, Switzerland. And again, those were the neutral powers. Now, switching back to the top of the page, it says during World War I, a new type of weapon in warfare emerged around 1915, the submarine. By 1914, all major navies had submarines, yet most considered the weapons of little importance. The underwater crafts were small and slow going. The German Navy, however, realized that it did not have enough surface vessels to turn back the mighty Allied armada. The Germans therefore worked to develop submarine warfare, mainly to keep supplies from reaching Britain. Shade the waters around Britain and Ireland light blue and show the area of German submarine activity. Activity actually extended south from Ireland to the coast of Spain. Then number 3 says the Lusitania was sunk off the southern coast of Ireland. Locate and label the star on the map, Lusitania. So we'll go ahead and flip back to the map, and we will shade in the area where the German submarines were lurking. And then see the red star there? We're going to go ahead and label that the Lusitania. And finally, number 4 says, throughout the war, the British Navy maintained a blockade of Germany, cutting it off from overseas trade and resources. Draw an orange line from the southern tip of Norway to the northern tip of the Netherlands to show the location of the British blockade. We'll go ahead and fill that in. Finally, our final map, election of 1916. It says, by the fall of 1916, influential Americans, including Theodore Roosevelt, were supporting the idea of American involvement in World War I. On the Allied side, some Americans simply wanted a preparedness stand, a policy of building up America's armed forces, but the majority of the population still favored neutrality as the policy for the president to follow. As the election of 1916 approached, the Democratic slogan, "He kept us out of war," seemed to speak to the hearts of the people. Although Wilson had lost some support among progressives during his first term, the Reform Party decided not to run a separate candidate. Many progressives then turned to support the Republican candidate, Charles Evans Hughes, a Supreme Court justice. Wilson won with a greater percentage of the popular vote than he had won in the 1912 balloting, yet the election was still close, as the statistics below reveal. And so in order to complete the election map, it asks us to color the states won by Hughes, blue, and then color the remaining states that were won by Wilson, red. Keeping in mind that this map I got out of a book that was published before they started labeling red state, blue state. Today we think of red state as being Republican states and blue states as being Democrat states. In this case, we're coloring the states won by the Republican candidate Hughes blue, and then the opposite, the ones won by Wilson, who was a Democrat, red. So red state, blue state, but don't worry about it. We'll just go ahead and do it. So color the states won by Hughes. So we're supposed to color in Connecticut and Delaware, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa and Maryland, Massachusetts and Michigan, Minnesota and New Jersey, New York and Oregon, Pennsylvania and Rhode Island, South Dakota and Vermont, Wisconsin and West Virginia. Keep in mind that if I'm going too fast for you, feel free to pause. So the remaining ones that were won by Wilson, we're going to go ahead and just color them in red. And there we go. It says Wilson received more popular votes in 1916 than he had won in 1912, and yet in 1916 he only received 52% of the electoral votes compared to 82% of the electoral votes in 1912. How did the fact that more than two men ran for the same office in 1912 affect the outcome of the election? And obviously it split the vote further among more people, and so even though he won, he didn't get as many electoral votes. So that is it for the maps this week. I hope that this was helpful, and we will see you again next Tuesday.